side. Today, in order to polish our speech writing skills and speech writing and structuring skills, please put your hands together to welcome the coach, the mentor, the role model to Toastmasters across the globe, DTM Umar Radhakrishnan.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, President Meena, for that wonderful introduction. Actually, it did send a frisson of excitement up my spine. You know, only in Toastmasters where you get such accolades, you know, to bringing in people. Now, the thing is, what you're about to see, creating and organizing a speech, or rather structuring a speech, is something that is very, very simple. In terms of, let's go to the traditional program, it is the P2 of the traditional program, which means it's very simplistic, right? Now, when I decided to present this to you, I was thinking, now TGIS is a very mature club. So it wouldn't do for me to just come out there and present a simplistic version of this, organize your speech. And boy, am I glad that I decided that, because now we have how many people on board? 80 people on board. And I think it was a good move for me to go and brush up a few things, isn't it? It cannot be too simplistic at all. But creating and organizing is, in fact, it's the first step towards ensuring that we get it out right, isn't it? A thumbs up if you agree with me. And we saw some fine examples of how we can present yourself in a good way. So let's see how we can go about doing it. So there is this lovely quote that I like. If you have it in front of you, 90% of how well the talk would go is determined by before the speaker steps onto the platform, which means there is a lot of blood, sweat, and tears before you go out onto the stage. I can see Shaukat Ali smiling at me. Remember, Shaukat? Tough times don't last, but tough people do. When I saw your face, I was reminded of that endless practice sessions that we had at home, you know, at the venue, my goodness. Now, this is what happens when you put your all and soul out. Now, how do you put across that the best feed forward? Right, so these are, when it comes to structure, there are some burning questions out there. Because it's all about content. If the content is right, which means half the stuff is done. Yeah, so let's look at what those burning questions are. First off, speech development. If you can answer the question, what do I want to achieve? And I'm sure that all of you, when you put together a speech, you have decided, what is it that I want to do? Do I want to inform them? Or like Samir did today, do I want to entertain them? Do I want to inspire them? Do I want to motivate them? What is it that I want to do? When you ask that question to yourself, that helps you in your speech development. And how you arrange or put the speech together depends on the response you give to that previous question. What do I want to achieve? You know, there are many, many structures and many types of arrangement for us to put the speech across. There could be the problem solution, or the cause and effect, or the chronological way of doing it. We decide on the structure after deciding what is it that we want to do. That said, there is speech effectiveness. This brings it in from a sensory perspective. You see, what is it that I want the audience to do, think, and feel? All the kinesthetic, the auditory, and the visual, it is taken care of there. What is it that I want them to do? What is it that I want them to think? What is it that I want them to feel? How moved should they be? Once you answer these questions, the effectiveness is set in place. Thirdly, the value, the speech value. What is my message that I want to put out? And if you can put that message across in 10 words, believe me, you have a good speech going. Because first we have to solidify that message in our mind. Once that message is solidified in our mind, then we can give it the wings to reach out and do whatever we want with it. But first it has to be in there. What is my message? That message has to be crystallized. It has to be clear. And then we can move ahead. So these are the questions in terms of development, in terms of effectiveness, and in terms of value that you can put out there. Now we look at it step by step as to how you can achieve. So you've seen that picture. Remember the OBC that we're always talking about, the opening, the body, and the conclusion. How is it that we put it out there? Yeah, so I will stop my share and I will share a whiteboard. You can all see the whiteboard in front of you? Yes, great. Now a speech structure is a bit like building a bridge. When you build a bridge, you need support structures on either side, right? On both the sides, you need two pillars. So this is your pillar number one. I'm getting the hang of drawing on the whiteboard. This is not as good as it should be. So you have your pillars on either side, which is this is your opening and this is your conclusion. And again, you need to have a structure. This is your bridge that you intend building. Now, engineers out there, structural engineers, have you seen a bridge stand just like that without any support structure? Absolutely not. It needs support, right? So these are your pillars that give you the support structure. Again, is this enough for that bridge to stand? No. So this is where you need another filling wherein it has to connect, it has to go up all the way, right? So this is your opening, this is your conclusion, this is your body of the speech, and these are the two pillars that you see in between are your main points, and these are the support structures, simply put. Clear? Then you allow your audience who has to cross this bridge to the other side a smooth journey. Otherwise, you're waiting for an accident. Are you clear here? So we will move forward and let me share my screen back with you. Awesome. That said, let's look at the structure. That is the opening. Yeah. Everybody agrees that it has to be an attention grabbing opening. What is attention grabbing? It makes you want to sit up and listen to the speaker. Now, the thing is, I will not attempt to correct the speeches that we saw out here because they are going to be evaluated. But what I will do is we had Samir doing a humorous interlude, right? Now, even a humorous interlude is a mini speech. Wouldn't you agree? Even if it is 3 minutes, it has to have an opening, a body, and a conclusion. Now, how did Samir's opening connect with you? I want maybe the president, Meena, I can see you on the screen. So can I ask you, how did Samir's opening connect with you? I know that you love Samir, but be honest here. I cannot hear you.
Hi. Okay.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Meena.
Hi, okay.
You've forgotten
okay.
what he said, right?
How I was able to connect with this thing.
That's right.
Yes, I was, because since he took us back to the time of our lives during college. So, he brought that image. So immediately we were taken over there during our times as well, or we could visualize the campus or whatever it was that he said.
Thank you, Meena. So I will go back to Samir. Samir, how could you have changed your opening for it to be different and attention grabbing?
How could I have made it more attention grabbing?
I can't hear you. Please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now? Is it audible?
It is audible now, yeah.
Yes. So how could I make it more attention grabbing is the question.
Yes. Look into the speech, look at the rudiments that you were trying to project and see how you could have done it in another way.
So if I had to do it in another way, perhaps I would have. So I did ask a question. That is how I started.
Okay.
Do you remember where you were in 1990?
Could you repeat it for me? Could you repeat it for me, please?
Yes. Do you remember where were you in 1995?
Mm-hmm. You tried to make a humor out of it.
Well, I said that, and then I said, I don't care where you were or if you remember it, because I remember where I was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I started going into my speech of where I just joined college, and it was the first year of my college.
Right. And the story was about ragging, isn't it? So when I was listening to your speech, I was looking at which is an alternate way in which you could present. And I was thinking, if you had in a very grave manner, everybody knows that you are having a humorous interlude there, right? So you are coming up there and saying, I have a confession to make, very grave face. I have a confession to make. I was ragged in college, but I loved it. You know, so you think I am weird, so that connects you to the audience in a different way.
Absolutely.
So it makes them, yeah, so it is a different take on the same topic, how I can establish the connection with the audience. So an opening has to introduce the topic, it has to be attention grabbing, it has to establish goodwill and open up intrigue about the topic. Yes, Samir, you have a question?
I could say something like this, perhaps. I was ragged in the first year, and the guy who ragged me didn't enjoy it.
That's a good one too. See, that brings about, and it's look at the people who are laughing there. That is even better in terms of a connect. So on retrospection, all of us, the speeches that I heard today also need some bit of work, which I'm sure that the evaluators will explain it to them. Now, what is it that I would not like to see in my introduction, or rather the opening, are these apologetic statements in terms of, I did not get much time to practice, or a bland, insipid opening. Long-winded stories that take up more than 10% of the speech itself. How many of you remember Mohammed Khatani, the public speaking champion speech opening? Any of you remember? What did he do? He just lit a cigarette, and then he was about to light a cigarette, and then he stopped and asked what? That is so clear and so visual, so vivid in our memory. Why? Because that was certainly attention grabbing. Now, a long time ago when I started Toastmastering in Kuwait, I remember hearing a speech. It opened like this. Today, after 5 years, I received my license to kill. My goodness, I was thinking, how does that happen? And I wanted to know. He was talking about his driver's license. So you see how it impacts you. And another thing that I remember, a lady, she did not place actually, but she came in with a lampshade on her head. A lampshade on her head. She enters the speaking area with a lampshade on her head. And what was she speaking about? She was speaking about being a wallflower where no one recognizes her. It's as good as being a furniture in the room because nobody gives her a second look. Deeply impactful. So this is how we make a connect. This is how we make a statement. So opening is extremely important when it comes to structuring a speech. Moving to the body. Now this is where the structuring works in terms of you remember the structure that I drew where you have the pillars. So the pillars are your main points. And then you have the structural with the subpoints and support material. What are your support material actually? It could be examples, it could be stories, it could be anecdotes, it could be facts, anything that can fill it in so that it is seamless and flows. It's a bit like stringing a necklace. Beading a necklace rather, one bead following the other, so that it is like a neatly made necklace, beads necklace, right? Now, what is it that I will not use in the structure? Seamless going from this is the thing, this is called transition. When I talk about transition, you remember when you are writing, let's say, anything, typing it down, you have a comma, you have a semicolon, you have a full stop, and you have paragraph changes, right? In the same manner, from the introduction to the main point should be seamless. Because I have heard speeches wherein the introduction is a standalone, everybody knows that it has to be attention grabbing. So they grab attention, but it has got no relevance whatsoever with the body of the speech. which is an absolute no-no. It has to seamlessly blend into the main point and again to the sub point, from the sub point to the support material to the second main point. Are you with me? So it is like, it just flows in a smooth manner. Remember, a logical, smooth flow without bumps. That is how the structure should be. Are we clear on this one? Any questions? Just put your hand up and we will move to the conclusion as to how we need to put together the conclusion, how we can wrap up by emphasizing the key ideas of the speech. Everybody knows that we need to leave the audience with on a high. We have heard that ever so often, right? Heightened interest, because that is what they hear the last. However, not leaving them high and dry, because there is no sense of closure in terms of where that speech just ended, I didn't know. That shouldn't be the way it ends. Even trite conclusions like, that's it from me, I will look forward to presenting to you next time, is a way of finishing in a bland manner. Always leave the audience on a high, making them want more. Right? Whether it's a 3-minute speech, a 7-minute speech, or a 40-minute speech for that matter. The formula is the same, but the way in which you do it is different, that's all. So there you have the opening, you have the body, and the conclusion. Now, how do you fill it up? That is important as well, isn't it? We just looked at the outline. Now, how is it that we add color into them? Let's see. So crafting compelling content, and I'm sure that I see a lot of veterans out in the audience who really craft excellent content. And what they do is they go about it in two ways. One is the logical manner, and the other is the emotional way of connecting with the audience. Logic is required to connect, emotions are required to connect. So what about the logic? It's high impact opening and closing. Always it connects. Logically, it has to stand alone, yet blend with the rest. Seamless flow, of course. Short sentences, fewer words. This is where you have the comma and the semicolon come into place. Because when you put the speech together, you are writing it for the ear. You know, it has to be auditory. You don't have the luxury of going back and listening to it again, or rather reading it again. So which is why shorter sentences, few words to connect with the audience and to put across the essence of what you are trying to portray, right? And the emotional aspect is using sensory description. When I talk about sensory description, it is the way in which the words would entice vivid imagery in our minds. You know, as soon we are transported, like when Samir said that, talked about his college days, instantly we were transported to those college days when we were a student as well. So that is making sure that stories stick. And for stories to stick, they have to have that emotional impact, connect. It could be pathos, it could be fun, it could be any emotion, but emotions connect. You know how emotions connect is they are like Velcro. The moment you start speaking to them, it takes about, 30 seconds for that to get into our system. 30 seconds is more than enough for that to get into our system, which is why looking back, when you think of all the good times and the bad times, the sad memories come up more. It's because of that sensory description and that how we keep it inside our minds. Yes, and we look for magical moments. What are magical moments? What is it that gives your speech that wow moment? I remember a speech long back wherein I think the session, Meena, that you were telling me about in terms of international speech, there was this gentleman, and I forever will remember that speech because I don't remember the name of that gentleman though. That's the what shall I say, unfortunate part. The thing is, he came onto the stage. He was wearing a thobe. You know, a thobe, that is a colorful upper garment where it's like a flowing robe kind of a thing. And he came in and he was talking about, inequality, how people are treated, right? And towards the end, he just opens the thobe, and underneath it, he's wearing a suit, a beautifully crafted suit, And he says, the words are, after all, we are the same underneath. You know, such impactful words I have not heard spoken. It actually sent a frisson, through my body when I still think about it. And I still think, my goodness, if you can move people with such sensory description, such magic moments, which people, they want to think about even after this speech was done a good more than 15 years ago, but yet it is so green in our memory. Why? Because they have created that kind of an impact. That is the kind of compelling content that we need to create. Moving on, the effectiveness in terms of how we can elicit effectiveness. Again, you need to ask yourself the question, are they getting me? Because even too much fact does not resonate with the audience. Too much emotion also doesn't resonate with the audience. So are they getting what I'm trying to tell them? Am I taking the audience along with me, or am I leaving them behind somewhere? Am I constantly connecting with the audience? Now, once we answer these three questions, we know that we are putting out a speech which is effective. Now, if you look at your speech ballot, these are the things that they ask in terms of content: speech development, speech effectiveness, and speech value. Now, this would help you in your, contests as well. Now, how do you go about doing that? The authentic and universal you. You cannot be somebody else. I cannot be Samir. I cannot be Vinod Raman Variyat when I'm speaking. I can only be Uma Radhakrishnan. You see? So there are certain things about me that comes across to the person as maybe neat, that I have to capitalize on. So putting out a very sincere element. What is it that people believe about you? That is important. Authenticity, the sincerity in which we project ourselves is very important. Now, having said that, you can practice as a different person to imbibe. Let's say I want to learn humor. I can put myself in somebody else's shoes and present. That's okay. But what I'm talking about is ultimately it is you who the people are listening to. Secondly, it is the artful repetition. When we talk about language, the more number of times we put that out. Who is that gentleman with the rose? Hetirachi, Dhananjay Hetirachi. And what was the key foundational phrase that he was using, which was artfully repeated time and time again?
I see something in you.
I see something in you, but I don't know what. The same way, how many of you know this Russell Peters, the comedian, the stand-up comedy person? Anyone? Yeah. So there is this thing that he says very often, somebody gonna get hurt real bad, right? So those things, people, even before somebody else asks them to say, these things come into our mind. Why? Because of the artful repetition that happens throughout their speeches. Again, the humor, that is the laughs that you generate. The twists, in the sense, what is it that you are leaving them with? Something that is, outstanding in terms of, oh, I did not see that coming. So the twists, and finally the magic moments in the speech, which creates the wow factor, which will make sure that you have enough content which is effective. And then we come to speech value. And what do we ask here? Speech value is, in essence, what is it that you are giving the audience in terms of the time that they spend with us? So why should they listen to you? That's it. What is the purpose of the speech? What is it that they are trying to say? And it is this: original, meaningful thoughts. In your rule book, it says that at least 20% of the speech can be borrowed, but it has to be cited, right? 25%, that is. So the more your thoughts and ideas are original, the more it will connect to people, which is why personalized stories are a good connector with the audience. People say, right, make it yours. Even if it's a joke, somebody else has written, own that joke, make it yours and personalize that joke. Why? Because it is important for us to project the thought in a meaningful manner, in an original manner. It's not borrowed, it is not plagiarized, it is my own. And I'm the living example of that, which gives rise to the next one, which is called creating a lasting impression. All those speeches that I refer to have created lasting impressions in us, lasting impact in us. That is how we create speech value. Otherwise, you know, when you finish a speech and people are, what just happened there? We don't want to be the people to make our audience feel that way, do we? No, we have to create that kind of impact when we are delivering our speech. Now, another connect is, I love this picture that's put out there. It's about how words can connect and ensure that you are connecting with the audience. And how do you do that? These are the questions, again, you ask in terms of language. Am I creating vivid pictures in their mind? Am I making them recall a memory that they have long forgotten? Are we asking more you-focused questions, making them feel that I am talking to you and you are the sole listener? So which means that I'm including you in my conversation. Am I clear in my pronunciation? Am I clear in the way I enunciate the words I project? So the more refined your language is, the better connect there is, because it's very clear to the audience as to what I'm trying to project. It is very vivid in their memory, image. The imagery is created in their minds. How do I do that? It is to ensure that whatever I say is appropriate to the audience. Time and time again, you know, I've seen this happening. To ensure that there is a humorous element in the speech, we forget about the taboo topics, and sometimes we do inject a few taboo topics into the speech just for a few laughs. But is it appropriate? And at a contest, you could easily go away because of that faux pas, right? And even in terms of the clarity in which I'm presenting my topic, the choice of words. Now, sometimes you feel like, when Vinod Raman Variat speaks, I have this, you know, I just love to listen to it. When Ganesh Raman, I'm sure that Raman speaks, I am all ears. So the thing is, there are speakers who can make you eat out of their hands. And how do they make you do that? By ensuring that the language that you put out is so, what shall I say, connecting, that you know, you fall in love with what they say. That is how you make a lasting impact. Some of the TED Talks that you've seen out there, more than what the essence of what they speak, it is a way in which they put out that appeals to you, isn't it? You might have heard the same idea or the same expressions put in many other ways, but the way in which that person connects, it's of essence. So ensuring appropriateness, ensuring that the choice of word is perfect and there is nothing else that matches there. Again, catchy title. You know, those are the first words that go out. Those are the first words spoken. So even before you go onto that stage, already an intrigue is made. Somebody else is doing it for you. It is important for you to create that kind of impact when it comes to putting a speech out there. And of course, the usual thing like repetition of phrases and ideas, which I mentioned earlier. So speech effectiveness, speech development, and speech value combined with the beautiful language or the rainbow that you are projecting will ensure that you steal the hearts of the people in the audience, right? And with that, I see that I'm on Amber, right? So I can take a few questions. Yes, Samir.
My question is this. When I started off my speech, I made a disclaimer.
Okay.
Where Santosh introduced me as going to be speaking a humorous speech, and I made this disclaimer that my speech may or may not be humorous. Now, you mentioned not to make apologies.
That's right.
Would that be as an apology, number one? Number two,
yes.
Does it take away the opportunity? Should we not make disclaimers before we start a speech at all?
Yes, Samir, we mustn't, because you are giving them the stick to beat you with. When we are making an apologetic statement, it is basic human tendency to look for the flaws in the speech rather than sit back and enjoy the speech. Which is why apologetic statements are a no-no when you're presenting a speech. They don't know you. Let them enjoy what you have to put out. It does not matter. If they laugh, they laugh. That's good for you. But no apologies. Yes. Anybody else? in terms of what we discussed as well, in terms of speech development, speech effectiveness, as well as speech value. You know, as trainers, we always say that if you have questions, which means that somebody was paying attention. And if you don't have questions, either you have not been, I have not connected with you. I hope it is the former.
I think, Uma, you've covered everything. As no, everybody's speechless. They have no questions for you.
Okay, that's not a good thing too. Yes.
So Uma, I just had one question, is that how do you find, you said relating to audience is a very important aspect. So
that's right. Yeah.
In different Toastmasters club, you get a different set of audience, and how do you, tailor your content according to that? Do you have any specific tips on that?
Yeah, Sri Ram, that's a very good question. You know what, I mentioned that there is the logical side and the emotional side, right? Now, this is basic human nature. Some of us like logic, some of us like emotion. So it is going to fit that you will be dotting the I when you have both together in there. So people who like logic will connect to you, and people who like emotion will connect to you as well. So you are ensuring with both logic and emotion that you are connecting to a wider audience. And you also need to ensure that you know a bit about, study your audience before you go there, as in the age bracket of the audience. All that matters, because some, jokes can bomb royally if you don't study your audience. Have I answered your question?
Yes, absolutely.
I see the red. Yes, please.
Hello.
Yes,
hello,
I
madam.
can't place who it is, but please speak up.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, but I cannot see you. But please state your name, and I'm available to answer your question.
Myself, Ashok from India.
Yes, Ashok.
Yeah, can you please tell some words which we would use? Any specific words to grab the attention of audience?
See, there are, I wouldn't say that there are specific words, there are no words that can grab the audience. If that's the thing, when I said that it cannot be a standalone joke, it has to be connect with the main point of your speech. So which means that the words that come out in the beginning would be something that's connecting with the main point itself. But a question could be a good way of grabbing the attention of the audience. A story could be a good way to grab the attention of the audience. A personal connect, that's why in Sameer's speech, had he asked a question or rather a statement, like I had shared, today I receive a license to kill. So all those things it jumps out at you, right? So there are no specific words, unless, you want to get into taboo topics. That will actually catch the attention, but we don't do that in Toastmasters.
Okay, madam. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I think I see red, and with your permission, I will say thank you. And it's a pleasure to speak to thank you, Firoz, a 78 audience. And I will really cherish this for a long time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, DTM. I would request everyone to unmute themselves and give her a big round of applause, please. Please unmute everyone. Give her a round of big applause.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Much appreciated.